Parks, Recreation, Trails Commission meeting to order. Madam, would you please call the roll?
Commission Chair Marty Rosen,
Present.
Commission Vice Chair Bill Zimmerman,
Here.
Commissioner Tom Gidroy,
Here.
Commissioner Ken Gaunt,
Here.
and Commissioner Richard Croy.
Here.
Would you do the...
Sure. You'd all please stand and join me in the flag salute. Ready? Begin.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we sit down, I'd like to call for a moment of silence for the people that were affected by the terrorist attack in Paris. So could we just... Thank you. That brings us to item 4.1, recognition of Veterans Day essay contest winners.
Thank you, Chair Rosen. Commissioners, good evening. It's my pleasure to introduce you to some of Menifee's finest and youngest that are available and participating in this year's Veterans Day contest. I'm not going to spoil it all because the rec team really put a lot of effort into adding a new component to this year's event, and we're just happy to have such a vibrant young community who are eager to share their thoughts about what Veterans Day means to them. So I'll turn it over to Jason Hendricks, our Community Services Supervisor.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Jason.
Thank you, Robert. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, thank you very much for being here this evening to recognize the winners of the Veterans Day Essay Contest. A little background on the Essay Contest. We included this in this year's Veterans Day event to hopefully enhance the recognition of the event and the recognition of the veterans in our community. And we had over 20 entries overall for the contest, so a team of staff members selected what they thought were the best 4 entries that were submitted, and those 4 individuals will be recognized tonight. They did a great job reading their essays at the Veterans Day event. We're not going to put them through that again, but we are going to present them with some certificates, and then we'll ask the commission to take a quick picture with them, and then they'll be on their way to go do homework probably. But thank you again for being here, and you guys did a tremendous job. It was a difficult process to select the best 4, but you 4 definitely stood out, and for that we'd like to recognize you once again. So we will start with Colton Belisle. I'm sure I probably spelled that wrong. Come on up, Colton. And if everybody could please stay up here until we call all 4 up so the commissioners can recognize you as a group. Next up, we have Scarlett Wilson. Nick Welty. And last but certainly not least, Abby Gomez. If the commissioners would like to come up and congratulate the winners and take a quick picture with them.
In addition to the well-crafted essays they put together to honor our veterans, they did, as Jason mentioned, get up on that stage on Veterans Day and read them out loud to a group full of eager veterans and supporters. And I know that's nerve-wracking because I was up there too. So I can only imagine how much it took for them to get up there and share their thoughts. So great job. We're really looking forward to more stuff from Menifee's youth. So
Keep up the good work. Future writers.
Call him Rabbi.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Congratulations again to all of you. Good job.
Let me move on.
For a moment there, we were really. Um,
4.2 is,
4.2 is postponed. Um, All right, let's continue. Item 4.2 has to be rescheduled. It will be rescheduled to our next meeting. All right, they weren't able to attend tonight. So that brings us to item 5.1, the minutes of November 5.
One small correction.
Please, go ahead.
On the very first page down at the bottom, it's talking about the county Representative Brandy Hune, and I think her last name is spelled Hune. Other than that, I don't have any other changes. If
Anyone
no,
else?
if no one else does, I'll move approval
Yeah, with that modification.
with the modification. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's been approved unanimously with the change. Madam Clerk, is there any modification to the agenda?
There are no
Other than the
modifications.
one I already said.
There are no modifications.
Thank you. So the agenda is approved as is. Any public comments?
There are no public comments.
Item 8.1, Rabbi Abrams from Temecula had called me and told me that he was planning on coming, but I have a feeling he got lost because of another message that was on my phone. Have you been able to get a hold of him? No. Oh, he wouldn't answer the phone? Okay. With everyone's permission, I'd like to take 8.2 before 8.1, give it a little extra time, just in case. Is that all right with him? Okay. Then let us go to item 8.2. Okay, we're to discuss the possibility of installing a bust or statue of Audie Murphy in Spirit Park. What is your pleasure, gentlemen?
You want to take a staff report?
Oh, is there a staff report? Oh, I'm sorry. Go right ahead, Robert.
Okay, thank you. Just a quick background on this. At the request of the mayor, the commission has been asked to consider the inclusion of an installation of bust or statue of Audie Murphy, the war hero, the screen actor. That you could probably go on and on. And in the staff report, there's a little history on him and his significance to this area. He was a landowner in the Menifee Valley and a part-time resident here. And of course, as you know, Audie Murphy Ranch development is in honor of him and his family's existence in this valley. So the request before you is to consider a bust or statue in a couple of places as options for consideration. Spirit Park, which is set to open on the December 5th date, has a memorial garden, and if I can have staff go ahead and put the PowerPoint on the screen. It will match the larger sheets that were handed out to you, so you can kind of see what we're talking about. I'll start first, though, with the second location, which is the pear orchard. This is actually part of the street improvement plans already approved in the specific plan and in the Mylars for this improvement have already been signed. This is on the north side of Newport, between Newport and Salt Creek, so just south of Salt Creek. There is a small sliver of land here that's slated for improvement. It originally was to include a pear orchard. During the working drawing comments and feedback, we renegotiated that to be fruitless pear orchard, so that we didn't have to deal with that too much and everything it comes with. And so what remains at this location is this little, I guess you could call it a memorial garden of sorts. This is the top-down planning plan, and in the middle there is actually a flagpole with uplights that are part of the installation, and of course it's surrounded by the fruitless pear trees and some other planting. I think there's some carpet roses in the adjacent planter areas, and it all feeds off of the trail that is adjacent to Newport. You can go to the next slide. This is some of the elevations, so you can see the flag, and then on the front of the flag post there is a built-up veneer, stone veneer pilaster that can accommodate a plaque there. The details of what's on that plaque have not been sorted out, and additionally, there isn't any other monument installation planned for it. But this could be an opportunity to introduce something, and of course you can see sort of in the top middle, the right pane, you can see there's this seating wall in 4 locations surrounding the flagpole, and then in the middle underneath the flagpole is where that plaque is intended to go. So this is one viable location to put a bust or statue in addition to what's already planned. The only downside of this is that we wouldn't be able to require the developer to do the installation at their cost because they've already got the project entitled fully, and working drawings have been approved. So this would have to come at the city's cost, presumably part of the trail's diff, because it would be part of a trail. That's one option. The second option is within Spirit Park. You can go to the next slide. This is also in front of you. A blow-up of this is in front of you in hard copy. I'm going to direct your attention to almost the exact center of the park. There is a memorial garden that was already approved and planned and built. I walked it the other day. Currently, I think it's 4 circles that sort of encompass this area with what was originally intended to be native plant material in there. However, some of the native plants that were proposed don't do so well in the weather around here. So they've since been switched out to something more resilient like carpet rose or rosemaries or things like that. There isn't any notable memorial monument in this space. It's just sort of a meditation garden, so to speak. So this also is a viable location to locate or to place a bust or statue installation. Again, since this is after entitlement and even after construction, this would be at the city's cost to do. These are the two that staff feel are the best options, best locations to do this. Of course, it's open for recommendation from commission as well, and that's the report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Robert. Anybody? Please.
Mr. Chairman. You also mentioned, in your report, the possibility of the pear orchard area?
Right, that's the first one that I was talking about.
That was the first one? Okay.
Yes,
I went up and looked for it today, but I was going the wrong direction. That's actually west of Spirit Park.
Yes,
right?
correct.
Okay.
Yep. And it's not built yet. It's really just a open vacant pad there, that sliver.
But there may be a possibility of asking that developer to be included, to have this included in that park.
Well,
Our cost.
it would be at our cost, since they've already got their
Oh, okay.
their project fully entitled and plans approved. It would be
Okay.
our cost.
I just had the two mixed up.
I mean, I don't have a problem, except according to the staff report, $10,000.
Yeah, $10,000 would be for the installation. So there's got to be some sort of pilaster to hold it up, to mount it, and the plaque. We really don't know what the going rate is for commissioning that kind of work. That's the big question mark. Ultimately, though, it's still at the city's cost.
Pardon my voice. A couple questions. What was Normandy Road going to be renamed?
Oh, leading into the park from Berea headed eastward, that segment that culminates in the cul-de-sac is intended to be Heroes Court. That was the item that the commission recommended. It has to have been a few months, right? Yeah.
So it would make sense to put the monument there, for me anyway, just to, right now, Heroes Court, and there you have Hero. Yeah, the difference in the two areas, two locations, what's the difference in the cost?
Cost in the two locations would be exactly the same.
Do we have parking in the pear orchard that people could visit this monument?
No, it is part of the walking trail.
Okay.
Bill?
Thank you. The only positive I see for the pear orchard is that it's separate. There's a lot of activity happening at Spirit Park, but there's really not a whole lot of activity happening on the west end, on the corner. And in a way, it's kind of nice because that's sort of where you're coming from, Canyon Lake area, and entering the city on Newport Road. And so that's kind of where people are their first impression of the city. And so if we have some things like that, it's a positive. So I kind of like that we're spreading things out a little bit, but at the same time, that's really about the only advantage I see. And then as far as the Memorial Garden in Spirit Park, that really does seem like an appropriate place. So I'm okay with either one. I'll leave it up to you guys.
Again, let's go back to the cost. Do we want to pull $10,000 or more? We have really no idea what it would cost to create it and to set it within the Memorial Garden.
The item before you tonight is not to approve the cost. It's just to approve the concept and location. We can return once we get to the point where we want to do a contract or an award or even bid it out with the actual estimated cost at that time.
That's a great idea. Very well. Anybody else? Please.
Mr. Chairman, is the item before us is only the choice of the bust or the statue? We can't discuss the possibility of a plaque of some sort or something, thinking of the cost?
I think the plaque is intended to be part of the full installation. So whether it's a bust or a statue, a plaque will accompany it.
Okay.
It's also a matter of where we think it should be placed, which
Well, first of
location.
all, we have to decide that, one, we'd like to do it, and then two, where. And then we'll leave the problem of the money to the city council.
I tend to agree with Bill that it'd be really nice to have something really pop as you're coming down the hill in Canyon Lake, and a nice flagpole and uplighting, and I think that's really effective gateway into our city, and I think we get a lot of bang out of our buck for that.
I agree with you, plus the monument in his honor that's ties together with the flag.
The only other question I have is regarding maintenance of the area. So is both of these dedicated to the city, and we would maintain both? Obviously, Spirit Park we would, but what about the pair?
Yeah, the dedication of the land and the improvements is through the developer, Brookfield, for both Spirit Park and for the pear orchard.
Okay.
And so we would absorb the cost through the CFD to maintain both locations.
Thank you.
Yep.
In that case, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I need a motion on what we want to do.
Do we have a consensus that we like spreading it out a little bit and putting it in the pear orchard? Is everybody in agreement with
Yes.
that?
Yeah, that's fine.
I am too.
We all in agreement on that?
Totally.
Please, a motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved. So we are approving that we would like a statue or a bust. Which one?
I don't know that you have to choose that right now. I can bring that back with the cost estimate at that future moment.
Great idea. Okay. So that would have to go before the city council.
If it exceeds our CIP budget within our trail improvement, then it might, but the overall amount only would need to go to council if the purchasing policy requires it.
Okay.
So, because we don't know the price, it's hard to say at this moment, but at
Okay.
very least, it will come back to this group.
So we will get this back with further details at a later time. Now that Rabbi Abrams has come, I'd like to bring us back to the item of 8.1, which is the menorah lighting display. And again, I'm going to go to Robert for a staff report.
Thank you, Chair Rosen. Just a background on the November 5th meeting of the commission. The Chair Rosen had requested consideration of including a menorah display during the winter holiday season to recognize the Jewish Hanukkah holiday. Staff has met with Chair Rosen to determine the feasible options for achieving that display, and have learned that the rabbi, and I'm sorry I missed the name, Abrams, from Temecula is willing to provide a menorah for this purpose. And before the commission this evening is consideration of how that could be achieved, where it could be placed. A couple of things I would like to share with the commission first is, given what the menorah represents, there is some sensitivity to where we could place it, city property versus private property. Currently, the tree lighting event that occurs happens on private property, which does provide the city with a little bit of protection when it comes to a separation of church and state. I want to make sure that's perfectly clear before you have the discussion. So know that going in, There are some opportunities to provide a display option, both at the property street level leading into the town center, as long as it's on private property. And then once it's in the town center, because the site has not been dedicated to the city, it's still fine to place at that location as well. So with that said, no matter what outcome the commission has, it will need to be a recommendation to city council for them to equally co-sign and approve. That concludes my report. I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Before I open it up for everyone, there are a few things I'd like to say about it. The concept was to do it near the tree lighting. Because of the lateness of the time, we were talking about a single day, actually a single hour, actually, near the tree that will be lit at that time, because that's happening on the 12th, and we can't get onto the property until the 12th. So,
No, we can get onto the property before that. The public access to the property won't occur until the 12th.
well, we need public access. So we were thinking of the 13th. Again, a short event wouldn't take an hour. The rabbi has kindly agreed to provide a menorah that would be approximately 6 feet tall, 4 feet wide, 2 feet deep, that would be brought there that evening. And he would provide a short event with it. The menorah in question uses candles. 9 candles would be lit. They would stay lit perhaps a half hour or so, and then everything would be broken down, taken away. The rabbi had also indicated that he would bring some tables to put food on for anyone who was there. It is traditional to have jelly donuts and latkes at that time. They would also have chocolate dreidels and or chocolate coins for the children that might be there. As I said, this was going to be a stopgap, all right? Next year, it would be brought up at a time when all the others are brought up and other arrangements could be made. So that's what I wanted to say. Also, Rabbi Abrams was kind enough to come just in case you have some questions for him. Bill?
Great, thank you. I like the idea, and I'd love for this to happen. And I'm thinking of the potential for red tape. You still got to get approval from city council, and that could drag on and cause it not to happen. And I just am curious, why wouldn't this be something that's done privately without, and not trying to run it through the city where there could be litigation and all kinds of things that could potentially rise, as well as getting approvals and all that. If you were to just simply do it, maybe, or if a group was to simply do it as a church and do it privately on private property, then the city doesn't have anything to do with it, and you can certainly have less obstacles between now and then. I think it might make it easier for you. I'm just
Well, I'm fairly certain the city council will go along with it. And we are only talking about an hour or so, nothing more. It is on private property, Dinkins' property.
Yes.
And as long as he says it's okay, it's okay. My only concern is, of course, the fact that trying to tell people about it will be an issue, and we'll have to do some kind of a email blast of some kind once it's approved. We don't expect it to be as well attended as other events because of that. But we figure maybe 50 or so people would come.
I hope that a lot more would come.
Well, we're
but-
trying to get the word out, but like everything else, I don't want to put the word out until the city council says yes.
Yeah.
Even though I've spoken to them and they don't have any issue. The only thing that we will need from park staff is lights, something to light the area, which I believe you do the same thing when you light the Christmas tree, some kind of artificial lighting.
Well, what we do for the tree lighting is part of the full event and only is for that evening.
Oh, yeah, we're
So-
talking about that.
Right, so if I understand what your recommendation is, you're proposing that the menorah be lit the same evening as the tree lighting? Is that correct?
No,
Oh,
no, day
different.
after.
Okay,
The tree lighting is on a Saturday,
okay,
so we're talking about Sunday, 13th.
I understand. Sunday. It
Sunday.
would be on a Sunday, yeah.
When it would be on the
Yeah.
Sunday.
Th- That is an option for the commission to consider. Alternatively, if you did want to include it as part of the tree lighting event, there is a number of vendors that are planning to attend anyways. It might be reasonable to have the temple that is providing it be one of those booths and display the menorah during the event, and the city would be happy to provide an introduction on the stage so that as people walk the event, they know what it's about and are encouraged to go and learn about the holiday and what everything stands for. That way, there's a captive audience to introduce it in this first year during the event. That is an option as well.
What time is it done on Saturday?
The event is from 4 until 9, with the tree lighting occurring at approximately 6.
I don't know if it can be done then. Rabbi, would you please just come to the... I understand what you're saying, the whole thing will be there at the time, and this would just be another part of it. But, of course, Saturday is Saturday, you're not allowed to do this kind of thing until dark.
Thank you so much, everybody, for considering this. Thank you, Mr. Rosen, for initiating it. I'm definitely happy to participate and make it happen. As far as
Saturday night?
As far as Saturday night, the Sabbath ends, which I don't drive or carry or use electricity until the Sabbath ends. It ends at 5:30, and we actually have a menorah lighting at the Promenade Mall at 6 o'clock.
Saturday.
That Saturday night. Every other day we're doing it at the mall at 4 o'clock. So it would be kind of difficult to.
So we're back to the 13th. Okay. As I said, next year, there are all kinds of things open that could be done. But this year, we're kind of rushed. Anybody have further?
Tom does.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom?
Oh, sure. I want to say I like the idea, excuse me, I like the idea also. And I think it's great that we can therefore celebrate our cultural diversity and our historical connections, which are, as Americans, this is part of the season. So I'm very happy to be having this put before us. I do see the city's involvement would be tacitly necessary. I think the fact that it's on private property would be an advantage. So if there's anybody objecting, it would be minimized.
Yeah, it's Dinkin's property.
Yeah, there just might be somebody say, you're spending some of the city's money on this. But it's not going to be a big case like you have had in other situations, I don't believe. So I just wanted to put that in there, too. I think it'd be a good idea. I recognize that I think in the long term, it could be part of our regular tradition here in the city, and I like that.
Vic, did you?
Well, I just like to, excuse my voice again, to echo that, yeah, I think long-term, to have them both at the same time is the ultimate goal, but since we're up against a deadline here with some conflicts, obviously, maybe that is the best.
I'll throw one more question
Go
in
ahead.
there. This is a question to staff. So is there any kind of concern at all? I mean, I know other cities have had litigation and they've changed their events to holiday events and trying not to be too specific towards a certain religion's way of celebrating the holidays and just keep it very generic. And so I'm not sure if there's any concern there, if having the city sanctioning or sponsoring the event that seems a little bit religiously specific.
Yeah, I think it's a fair question. Most cities have taken the position of being a generic in a tree lighting. They'll call it a holiday tree lighting. They won't call it a Christmas tree lighting for exactly those reasons. There has been case law on this where in the case where if a government agency has identified in a public event as catering to a specific religion, it places that agency at risk. So certainly that is something that will likely need to be addressed as the city continues to grow and incorporates more and more diversity. Unless it takes another route, which is to ensure that all cultures and backgrounds are systematically incorporated into its offerings, which is quite an undertaking as well. So that is true and something that will need to be handled in the future, if not more immediately.
Before, excuse me, before Tom, the mere fact that a tree lighting is done automatically opens it up anyway.
If it's
You
a
don't
holiday-
associate tree lighting with Christmas?
I don't know that the intent of the evening is or the item is to discuss or debate the philosophical intentions of the events, but I think what really is at the heart of the case law is that items that are symbolically tied to specific religions is what is at the heart of those, I guess you can call them debates. And so typically when a agency has referred to a holiday tree lighting, the symbolism of the tree is not related specifically to Christianity. That's how they've sidestepped that case, that law. Okay, but when it comes to let's say they were going to do a display of a baby in a manger, right, or a cross, or a menorah, or the Star of David. Those are very unique religious symbols that are tied to specific religious beliefs, and so that's the difference. That has been the difference in other agencies and how they've approached them legally.
May I ask then, how does Temecula get around it? Or Murrieta, which is about to do it?
I think what they do is they actually have a nonprofit who completely sponsors and puts on that function, so the city stays completely away from it. The nonprofit provides everything A to Z, and the city just allows them to have the space to do that. They likely issue them a permit for those uses, and I don't know if that's fee-based or not. I don't know. I'd have to ask more, but I know that the city is not the primary, or they are not the sponsor of it.
Rabbi Abrams, you wanted to answer?
Yeah, this is a really wonderful discussion. I've heard it many times. I've studied it, and I can say I'm very grateful and lucky to be in a city like Temecula and Menifee, or may I say Menifee and Temecula, and not San Francisco. I know San Francisco probably would have more of a problem with anything associated with any religion. You know, this is Riverside County. And yes, we are actually the sponsor of the 12-foot menorah at the duck pond which is actually public property. I'll be more than happy to do it at public property once you have that available. We do get a permit. It is not fee-based, and yes, we do sponsor the event. I'd be more than happy to consider doing it in joint, but that's not necessary at all.
Rabbi, do you see the wisdom in doing it through a private group or just yourself as the church, as opposed to trying to run it through a public agency and raise all kind of flags and red tape and all of that? I think it's almost adding difficulty to it, and it just seems to me so much more simple and less vulnerable to litigation to do this exact same thing, accomplish what you want to accomplish without trying to run it through a municipality.
Good question. And yes, it has been a question before. And at the same time, the answer I would say is that yes, the holiday of Hanukkah is indeed, you know, for Jews, it's an issue of Jewish pride, and you know, for many hundreds and actually thousands of years, Jews have had to do things in basements, and we're very fortunate to be in a country that celebrates diversity. So yes, there is an advantage. I do see the advantage. I don't know what you mean, the distinction between doing it publicly or privately. You know, what we do in Temecula, would that be considered private or public?
I'm not exactly sure what you do, but it sounds like if we're beginning with the end in mind and thinking about what it is that Chair Rosen described as what he'd like to see happen right out here on Newport Road, knowing that that's the end result and what you're trying to accomplish, which path is easier? Doing it privately, doing it as the church is the sanctioning body behind the driving force and getting that to actually happen, or running it through and asking the city and the city council to approve the event? See what I'm saying? I see it as very easy to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, and the other one I see as more difficult. And so that's why I'm asking the question, is it not wise to do it as the church and do it directly with the private property owner and basically get it done much easier without any approvals needed at all?
Yes, on one condition.
Yeah.
That when it turns to public property, that it continues
You're talking about next year?
next year.
Now, I read in the past, the city of Beverly Hills did put up a menorah on public property. It was there a few years, and then there was a challenge, and I think the court made them remove it.
This ain't Beverly Hills. Temecula, we have it on the park. We have it in the duck pond
Which
property.
is city property.
That's city
I
property.
also read the city of LA has more or less found a way to work around all this with all the different religions by having a display like Robert described, where they've basically represented every belief. I think it's over by City Hall, and there's been no objections whatsoever, because again, it's about diversity of the community, so it's not so much focused on a religious ceremony or a religious calendar event. So perhaps we could work towards something like that. What I think we're asking for right now is just a little assistance from the city. It's not a city-sanctioned thing per se. And the tree, as you asked about, Marty, that's pretty much, what would you call it, secular. It's not really a religious thing. If anything, it's an old pagan tradition.
Oh, my goodness, so we're now into pagans. Oh. As the rabbi said, literally, all of the event will be handled by the rabbi and people that he, brings with him. The only thing that would be needed would be access to the property and an hour or so to do the function, and some form of lighting. That's really the only, because it's dark, that's really the only thing. Everything else would be handled in-house, so to speak. Yes.
I think the question becomes, is the city going to act as a mediator to get this going? That's where you may run into the problem. If they're acting as a sponsor of it, I think if it's, I mean, you can certainly give him the phone number and you the phone number and let it happen, but
You mean call Dinkins directly?
exactly.
And also to publicize it perhaps through the city website or something of that nature.
And please know that none of us want to discourage the event. I think we're all trying to think of how to make it happen easier and with some certainty that it will happen. And my fear is that trying to run it through the city actually creates obstacles and could in fact cause it not to happen this year, and then you'll be disappointed.
What do you do about the fact that while you don't need anything from the city short of help with lighting, does the mere fact that the city would be helping with lighting automatically make the city a sponsor?
It could be perceived that way, yes. I think the alternative to that is, Town Center Drive is fully lit now. You'd have to go out and take a look to see if it would meet the needs of what, a menorah lighting event would require. There is a small pedestal out there with outlets that can be used, but having the city provide the lighting beyond just the electrical outlet might be pushing the envelope just a bit, as the other commissioner was saying. So there's that to contend with, but if that was overcomable, there is also the community calendar that the city currently has where, groups, nonprofits, faith-based and non, do post their information about events and activities, and it reaches everyone who's subscribed to the city's listserv. And actually, we've got quite a bit of people who came to the Fall Festival based off of that calendar. So that is a great avenue to use for the city to support, unofficially or indirectly support an event like that. So I think what also is being mentioned is connecting people. That's something I know immediately we can do, which is giving the contact information for Regent Properties to have access at the site on the 13th of December. They have an agreement with us now, which is currently being inked, to grant the city access to the entire development from the, I guess it's the day before the event, all the way almost through the end of December. I think an agreement between Temple and Regent would just overlay that. And they'd probably ask us, hey, are you okay with another organization being in there? To which we would likely say, yeah, sure, no problem. Our event is done. All we have there is the tree lighting installation that will be there through the end of December. So that can be provided now.
So if you provide the phone number for Regent Properties, we'll try to get it directly. And if that's the case, it doesn't need to go to City Council. And once Dinkin says okay, I'll ask you to put it on the city calendar. Okay?
Well, question, now down the road, we're talking about possibly using city property, is that what I was hearing?
Well, anybody could ask for a permit to do something by a nonprofit on city property. City would then process the permit. All right? I doubt very much if they would say no. Okay? So that could be done, but that has nothing really to do with the city other than allowing citizens to use whatever the property. But right now, the property does not belong to the city.
I think
So yes, you could get around it by going to Dinkins directly.
And I think the intent of the question for at least the future is what happens when it becomes public property? How does the city approach it then? There has to be a policy,
Exactly.
basically.
Which I
and-
would ask you to please check with the city council and/or Rob to try to come up with some kind of policy, whatever it is.
Well, I think that a good recommendation would be for community services to come back to the commission, sometime during the year, well before next holiday season, with sort of a draft policy where we can go and talk to Temecula, we can go and talk to Los Angeles, and just find out what they've done in terms, because they've had to establish a policy in order to be able to defend any potential litigation down the road, and then draft something to bring back to this group, and you all can then make that recommendation to city council to adopt, or provide options, that I think that would be the best way to approach it.
Very good.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Will you please invite us to that, Marty? Because I think it would be
What
nice
you
for
don't,
us to.
in fact, the rabbi doesn't know it either. I got a phone call from the bishop of the Mormon Church who wants to come to the event.
Yep. Thank you for taking your time tonight.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you for your support.
That brings us to 8.3. A special needs park discussion and tour scheduling. It has been brought to my attention, before I go to the staff report, that we are in need of a special needs park for children and adults. Something that would be easily accessible by them. And of course, because of their special needs, a lot of the space would be taken up by the ability of them to be able to maneuver either with crutches or with a wheelchair. And the Temecula, again, has put in such a park, or they're about to. It's people are there, but I don't think it was fully addressed yet. But in any event, their biggest problem is it's swamped. I mean, literally, that's their biggest problem. And so what they're telling me is that they need another one. They need two of them because of the large usage. But let me transfer to Robert and get a staff report.
Thank you, Chair Rosen. Yeah, as you mentioned, there is a need in nearly every community for an amenity like this, where those with physical and mental limitations can go or should be able to go and recreate just like everyone else. And because of how traditional parks are constructed, they don't typically have those folks in mind as the primary user. So a couple of cities have done this. As the chair mentioned, Temecula recently introduced a park, which apparently is very popular and isn't quite enough, probably similar to what we experienced with our skate park. It's not enough. There's a high demand and a high need. And additionally, in Riverside at Fairmount Park, about 3 or 4 years ago, there was a new universal playground introduced there. And so to give you a little piece of what is going to be discussed in the language of the Parks Master Plan that you'll be reviewing next month, there is mention of a need for this type of amenity in town. We at the Case Sinacero Center do have a group that comes to the center on a daily basis to participate and volunteer And so there is a need out there. There are groups out there that are trying to recreate in our public spaces, and we currently don't have anything to offer them. And so this evening, know that part of the discussion in the master plan will make a recommendation to this effect, and there are some sites that we can go check out immediately to give you an idea of what that could look like. So I'll leave it open after that and be happy to answer any questions.
Are you willing to share where those potential locations are in Menifee?
Technically, a park, an existing park, can be converted. There are any and all of our parks are potential sites. We could add a playground. We could, it's just a matter of cost, to be quite honest, and how many features of a, say, universal playground you want to be handicapped accessible. How many picnic, all of those things become part of the discussion.
And of course, if we do it at a time when the park is still under discussion with the developer, might be able to get the developer to put in the special needs that the park would have.
That's correct, yes.
So I would suggest that we try to find a day that's suitable when Alan could drive us again to see the two parks in question, the one in Temecula and the one in Riverside. Anybody have a problem with that?
Not at all. I have a question for you,
Go ahead.
Marty. On a county level, has anything like this been done?
I posed that problem to the director of parks, but he was so swamped today. This morning was the state of the county at Morongo. And literally, I didn't get back until 4. We left at 9 in the morning. So he didn't have a chance to respond to me. I don't know if there are county parks that are specifically special needs. I will get that answer.
Be
but I don't think so.
interested to see if the county has any intention, or if they have any. I was thinking also perhaps we could collaborate with the county. Certainly funding would be an issue. And we couldn't put it all on a developer to say, I need a special park which has got features that are going to cost more than average. And perhaps there'd be funding available through various grants, or just because the county would like to have an involvement with us, perhaps to develop how these kind of things should be. Just putting an
I
idea
would be more
out.
than happy to go speak to Marion about that, but I'm sure they would if they could come up with the money. Okay? Is there any particular time that's better than other times? You should give that information to Robert, and he could try to find a suitable time for all of us. Yeah.
Thank you. Robert, has staff looked into any possible national grants or things like that that might help fund, because this is kind of a special?
I also don't know what kind of cost we're talking about. That's another thing.
Sure, yeah, it's very unique. There's a myriad of features, site furnishings that could be part of this. Playground equipment is just one. There are handicap accessible park course stations. There are, it can go on and on and on. The prices vary. Some pieces are very simplified, and some are very elaborate because you may have to get an entire wheelchair onto a surface that normally would be someone's single leg. So it would take more research to know the true costs of every piece that could be possible, but the location, as I mentioned, it could be at a new park location that a developer is already required to build. It could be converting existing space. It's wide open at this point.
Margarita, are you aware of any grants that are available to help bolster or pay for special needs and
I-
ADA and all that sort of thing at parks?
I'm sure there would be. This is a very new topic for us. I think that we're learning to explore, but we can certainly look into. I think the Temecula one was partially at least either private grant or they did find some grant funding for it. So we can look into it as we explore the topic more.
Thank you.
And also try to get an idea of what the minimum size would need to be, in order to accommodate the special, the special parts that you're going to have to put into that.
I think generally the, the rule is twice as big as you think it
That's
should
what
be.
I was afraid to say that, but yeah. Any further questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I noticed that this subject is mentioned in that master plan that's being put together, and I think we ought to look at that further when it comes out in its final form.
I think that will be next time, at our next meeting.
Okay, and
And
I
absolutely,
just
we
don't
will
think
look
it's
at
the
it.
role, I don't think it's the role of government to do all things for all people, but I think we should try to help wherever we can, and so I think it's a good program, and maybe we can go partway with it, or start a program somewhere.
All of the things that we've heard tonight are possibilities, trying to get the county to partner with us.
Right.
Trying to get grants, to help with
Right.
whatever the cost is. And, all of that. And of course, telling a developer up front that the park that they're putting in needs to be special needs.
Good point.
It's hard to tell them after the fact, because you're telling them
Yes.
it's going to be extra cost.
Right.
But in the beginning, I don't see a problem with that.
Right.
Anything else? So, from what I'm gathering, we will ask staff to look into it and provide a staff report on it at some future date, as soon as they can get the information. And we will ask Robert to try to set up a day that all of us can go look at the two that are around, Temecula and Riverside. Is that correct in what I've said? Okay. Robert, okay? That brings us to item 8.4. Review and recommend historical monument markers and installation locations pursuant to the 2015 Park CIP. Our own Bill here is really up to it. He created this map for us. This isn't the first time he's created beautiful maps for us.
What you're
Bill, please.
Yeah, what you're looking at on that 11 by 17 map is the locations of historical significance. So you're seeing the individuals who were ranchers, pioneers in the turn of the century, and basically where their land holdings were. And so you recognize a lot of those names as names of schools that have been named after these folks, as well as roadways. So with that, just a quick reminder, I think I shared with you last meeting that the supervisor and I had kind of come up with the idea of doing something, because we don't have an old town here in Menifee to preserve, but we do know where the locations were of these early pioneers and their significance to the area, and we wanted to be able to tell that story somehow. And so we came up with the idea of placing pedestal monuments in about 15 locations throughout the city, and have a plaque on them that would describe who was there and what they were doing, and kind of in honor of those pioneer families. So the Historical Association got together, Betty Boris and myself, Katie Keys and Eleanor Martin, our president, and kind of went over the map, and using all of the research and information that we have, we came up with basically this map that you're seeing. And so you now know where William Newport's ranch was, and where Kirkpatrick and Christensen and the Brown Ranch, Charles Bailey, where the future Walmart and the Junction property is going to go on the corner of Scott and Hahn, and those are worthy of noting. And so, with that, the exercise has basically yielded about 14 locations that are appropriate, and the supervisor said, if you can get the city to pony up some money, I'll match it. And so both entities, the county of Riverside as well as the city of Menifee, have stepped up and agreed to fund this effort. And so we're going to do it in 2 phases. And the first phase will cost approximately $20,000 to do, and we're hoping to be able to erect 5 of these locations within that first phase. And then after the success of that, we'll come back and ask for an additional 10 from the city and a 10 from the county and complete the project. So with that, I don't know if Robert's got anything more to say, but I just want to let you to note on here, there's a couple of items that are in blue, and those show where the one-room schoolhouses were, and those would also qualify. We thought about showing where some of the mines are, and we just kind of put it in green, but we're not so sure that we want people tromping around because some of that's private property. There's still one more major effort that needs to happen before we actually contract with a vendor to install these, and that's to find the most appropriate location to place these. So let's take William Newport's ranch, for instance, kind of about in the middle of the city. You can see it covers both sides of the freeway. It's on both sides of Salt Creek. So you start looking on there, well, where can the most appropriate and maybe the similar to what we talked about earlier, what is the least path of resistance, the one that's going to be the easiest to place, less red tape, less requiring of dedicated easements and those kinds of things. And so we look for parks that are within there. We look for community centers that are within there. And certainly we know there is a Case Inacero Center in that, and P. Peterson Park's there. And so anyway, that exercise still needs to happen. We really need to sit down and find where is the most appropriate locations and where you take into consideration the most visibility, if people could park there. And then ultimately the idea would be to come up with a self-guided tour map that people could take a brochure from City Hall here and go and drive around and read and see each one of these plots and kind of get an idea of what was where if they're interested. And that, so with that, maybe I'll just turn it over to Robert if he wants to add anything else. But that's kind of where we're at as far as the Historical Association's effort.
Well, I think Commissioner Zimmerman did a pretty good job, so there's not much staff report left. Just other than tonight, the intent of this item is to see if the commission had preference on the location for the first 5 monuments, and know that the total amount available for this year is $20,000, $10,000 from the city and $10,000 from the Historical Association via a grant from supervisor or from the county. So the representation in the staff report, the first attachment with the concrete monument with the slanted face and plaque that's set in is ideally the preferred monument type. This is not exact. What you'll see on the last attachment is actually the schematic detail of what the monument construction looks like, minus the engraving on the face of the front face and back face of the item of the pedestal itself. And then, of course, the plaque would just be whatever significance, and storytelling that we wanted to achieve. So, not much more to report, just rather that we'd like to get direction from Commission about what 5 locations are preferred, and keep in mind that in order for us to do it most seamlessly, we would want it to be on public property, either in a trail area, a park area, or right of way that the city has easy access to.
That's right.
Well,
can
we
I
would
just add-
probably need to have a blown-up of these areas so that we could see what might be most, easiest to deal with. But we might as well do the biggest ones first if we can. You know, take Newport, Kirkpatrick, Christensen, Gilson, you know.
I almost recommend that we bring this back, and maybe between now and when this does come back, we can take the opportunity to go and kind of check it out, maybe look at an aerial photograph, because on this map, it's kind of hard to remember where the parks are and where the, those public areas are. So if that's, do you guys agree with that? Take a little bit of time and
Yes,
maybe
I'd
come
say
back
so.
and maybe, so it's really up to us then to pick which ones, because I don't know which ones will be the first 5 and then which will be the second 7.
There's more than 5.
Yeah. And we don't need to do them all. Some of them are actually a little less grand than others, and so, but we may find that one is just really, really difficult to find an appropriate place. And
You're not gonna find a place, it's on the side of a hill and private property.
that could be, that's right.
In which case, maybe the sign on the post would be more appropriate.
There you go. So on that, thank you, Tom, that's a good point. So on this third page that shows an example of a concrete monument and a cast post sign, we were thinking that if there's a location like where the Antelope School is, kind of down at the bottom, just on the east side of the freeway, that's an existing shopping center there. There's Walgreens, and that's right where the Antelope School was, right there on Antelope Road. But it's all built out, and so where could we put something like that? And the other thing that's a little bit funky is it's in the city of Murrieta. But anyway, so that's just like Tom is saying, a cast post sign might be easy way to tackle that one, and that way there's not so much requirement for
Are we going
dedicated
to
easement.
need permission from Murrieta?
Most likely, probably the landowner would have to also approve that, and but while we're looking at that monument, I wanted to add one thing. In the most recent meeting that included our supervisor and our staff, we were talking about how to identify, if you're looking at the concrete monument, there's really 3 logos that will ultimately be on there: the Historical Association, and then the county and the city seal. And so we talked about, you can see on that picture there, on the front, or on the side of it, in the rock, there's an emblem, and we were thinking that that would have the Historical Association's logo, and then up on top where you have the brass plaque, you'd have the city and the county seals in the corner, and then the description in the middle. And
Sounds fine.
that way when people drive by, they see that historic logo is what they're seeing. Instead of a city logo, it might almost look like a trash can or something like that, so.
Is it possible, when this is brought back, to get a blow-up, I should say, of areas so that we can actually see what's there?
Yes.
Very hard to try to choose a place,
Mhm.
location, without really looking at it. And I have to say, I would probably want to go there and see it firsthand.
Absolutely. And so why don't you, let's continue this if we can, and let's let the Historical Association come up with the recommendations for the first 5, and then we'll include some aerial photographs and maybe even highlight a couple places that we think are appropriate, and just kind of help to distill it into a little easier approval from our group.
Just keep in mind,
Stay out of Murrieta, by the way.
William Newport,
Yes?
along Bradley there. I heard yesterday at the Trails committee meeting that there's going to be an overpass. There's going to be an undercrossing for the trail, so,
At Newport and which?
at Bradley Wash.
Yeah, I knew that. It's going to be underground. And it was going to be high enough that literally a person on a horse, with them still on the horse, could drive under.
I don't know what Bradley Wash is. Are you saying Bradley Road over Salt Creek?
Yes.
Okay.
It's going to be,
I was looking like, I don't remember a Bradley Wash.
it's going to be a bridge.
Okay, Bradley Road, so it's got culverts under it,
Yeah.
And the riders would be able to go into
and
it.
it'll be raised, okay.
If I could add a couple comments, as I kind of mentioned, any concept of putting some of these outside of the city boundaries would likely not go well with the city council, spending city dollars. I just want to make sure that I'm clear about that. And then the other thing is I want to ensure that folks understand there is a planned large park in the Hans Christensen area. Think of the corner of Holland and Briggs, set back sort of in the right half of that ranch area is the Menifee Heights development. And it includes a sizable park and then a large open space with trails behind it that are all to be part of the city's resources coming, or assets moving forward. So that might be a great place to erect one of these in the park or even along trails leading into open space. If you want to identify one for next year, that would be a great one. And we could certainly have the developer provide the landing for wherever we want to install it, and then just come in with the pedestal after.
That's a good point.
There's a trail to go along the hills there
That's right.
with a little seating area. Great place for it.
Okay, so we'll come back and I'll have something a little better. And Robert, maybe you and I can kind of work on that together. All right, thanks.
Okay. All right. Next item, 9, Community Services Director comments.
Not much to provide other than that I hope everyone has a good Thanksgiving next week. We won't be meeting again until after that, but pretty sizable agenda, looking for a pretty sizable agenda in December, including the Parks Master Plan review. So I think each of you has a draft copy of that now, and any comments you have, please shoot them back to me so we can incorporate before we bring it to the full commission at the next meeting. Additionally, we are planning between now and the next time we meet the grand opening of Spirit Park. Again, that's on the 5th of December at 11 a.m. over at the park. So please mark your calendars. We'd love to have everyone there. And before that at 9 a.m. is Breakfast with Santa at the Senior Center. So get full and then come over to the park. And then fast forwarding to the 12th is the tree lighting event. And after that, I know my staff's going to be very happy to relax because they've been very busy with events in leading up to December, and we'll want to rest.
No way.
So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner reports? Anyone?
I just wanted to throw in that, and I think I mentioned it to a couple of you, that this Saturday morning at the Antelope Rural Center at 9:30 a.m., the Historical Association is going to have a special speaker. His name's Bob Kent. He is going to give a presentation on Luther Menifee Wilson, who the city was named after, and then the mines in the area and his mining district and how it played out and the whole story. He's got a nice PowerPoint presentation. And then after that meeting, we're going to go over to Menifee Elementary School. That's the shuttered school where Boys and Girls Club is. The Menifee Historical Association also recently was given the front row of classes there in the parking lot, and so we're turning that into a museum, and it'll be a historical museum for the public. And so we're going to do a quick tour. It's we just got the keys a month ago and been very busy bringing in displays and all of that. So it's maybe 1/10 set up, but it's actually pretty well set up already. So we're all, the visitors to the Historical Association's meeting, we'll do a quick little field trip over there and check it out, and we'll have some punch and cookies and that sort of thing. So you guys are all more than welcome to come and invite everybody and the public. So.
Thank you, Bill. Item 11, are there any future agenda requests?
Yes.
Go ahead.
We were talking about that parcel of land opposite Heritage High School. I know that Commissioner Croy said they were doing work on the Line A over there. I'd like to see if we could get an update on how that land is going to look when this is all through, so we can see if it's still usable and whether we should continue to consider it.
And you reminded me, I did speak with the county parks director about that. According to him, they do this all the time. They take the area that's been dug out,
The basin.
yeah, the basin itself, they fill it with rock, all right? And then they put a coating of earth on top of that. And then you can have your softball field, whatever you want, okay? They have done it so many times that he didn't see any problem with getting flood control to agree to that also, okay? But of course, you have to own it first.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I think what Rick was saying is it looked like they were excavating.
Well, they were putting in that depressed area, you know.
Just that.
Yeah. And the whole idea being for it to be able to percolate, you know, the water into it.
A giant French drain.
Yeah. And suitable rock, they know the size, but it's a suitable type of rock that you put in there that would still allow the water to.
Sounds very
To go down.
encouraging. Well, maybe we don't need a report on it.
Oh, no, we should have a
can
report
talk about
anyway,
this
yeah.
piece of property some more.
And we still have to work on asking city council at some point to think about annexing the property.
So that would require a presentation.
Yeah, we would need a presentation, we would then need a recommendation by us, the city council, see if they were willing or when they were willing to do that. We also, so I would like to add that to the future agendas, annexation of 40-acre, what are we going to call that? The
Potential regional park.
potential park, yeah,
Regional.
regional. And the other thing that we need to add to this is we're going to need at some point some kind of a staff report on how to go about getting the city to acquire additional land for the park. So what I was thinking of was something like having a plan so that when staff look at a potential park, if the park is very small, they might request money from the developer instead of the land, and then use that money at a later time to
Well, on
To
that
acquire
subject,
land.
We know how much Quimby money we've got set aside that we could use as a bankroll?
We currently have about $500,000.
Okay.
so that would get you about 3 feet. Actually, after a conversation with the mayor,
We need to know that number, that.
yeah, we need
regardless
to
of
know
whether
what
it's
it
a
would
great number or
cost,
not.
but we also need to make it a policy, again, it would have to be through city council, that we try to get money and let the developer develop the land instead of giving it to us, but then take an equivalent amount of money to add to the coffers so that we can buy land.
So what the chair is proposing and describing is something that's part of the Parks Master Plan's recommendations. So once adopted, that becomes policy. Right now, what we do is the developer may approach us and propose, as you've seen in prior meetings, a small park of, certain size, an acre, sometimes less, Our unofficial policy is that we don't want to accept as a public facility anything less than 2.5 acres. More importantly, though, the master plans will spell out for the entire geography, 46 square acres of the city, where the needs are most. So even if it is a 5-acre proposed park from a developer, if it doesn't fall in a certain catchment zone with the types of amenities that are really required and needed per the plan, it should be the will of the commission, essentially turned down, or a counter recommendation to the developer to pay fees instead, or move that facility elsewhere on the map, or, there are a number of options, but that's the intent of the master plan, is to be that guiding tool.
Excellent. Anything else, gentlemen? Hearing nothing, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? We all want to stay here?
Second.
Thank you. We are adjourned.